Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and you must think that I only live in my pajamas because the last couple of videos I think have been in my pajamas. But it's 4 in the morning and I'm up, I'm awake. My darling husband has been called into work, unfortunately. So they always have an emergency early in the morning. So he has to go into work and I am up. Twitch is here, and we're going to do another section of Olivette's library. We're going to get, I've done a little more writing. Oh, here she comes. Got my coffee. I've got her tail in my coffee. Okay, get down. Ah! Ah! All right, hold on. I'm going to put her down in the laundry room. Give me just a moment. Okay, I'm back. She's in the laundry room. She's safe and sound, but she can't get out and bother us. So, when last we left our heroine at the halls of justice, she wasn't at the halls of justice. Okay, so let me bring you up to speed. So our heroine Maggie has been diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. She is reluctant to tell, she hasn't told her family yet because the death of her father has caused such a rift in her family. She doesn't want to make things worse. And the day is only going to get worse for Maggie now. You're going to have to tell me if I've just overdone it on this woman having a bad day. But let's begin. Okay. So I'm going to read the last paragraph of where I left off and then start back through. And then start with the new stuff. A stiff breeze blew a large maple leaf, brown and torn, onto my lap. I picked it up by its stem. It was more than just faded. It looked beaten, its edges shredded by something. When the breeze came again, the leaf tore into pieces as I was holding it. I got up from the bench and set out to find the closest pharmacy. I made it back to my apartment, walking into the cold wind. I sank down on my sofa and my phone rang again. Hello, Maggie? Sharissa spoke quickly. Hey, Sharissa, what's up? Nothing. Well, something. Are you home? I picked up some reds. Sure, I'm not that hungry, but come on over. Sharissa, my only friend after 6 months of living in a new city, had brought me a hamburger. Smiling, I went into the kitchen to see if I had anything to drink. A few minutes later, she was shrugging her coat off in my kitchen. I traded her the greasy sack for a bottle of beer. Thanks, she said. I busied myself taking out the food and setting it on the table. So how was work? Anything exciting happen while I was gone? Maggie, sit down. The tone of her voice pulled me up short. I turned towards her and could tell from the way she was holding the bottle of beer in her hand something was very, very wrong. My God, that sounds ominous. I tried to smile at her, but she looked down at the floor. I sat down at the table. Okay, I'm officially sitting. What happened? Something bad, right? She nodded, still looking down. Taking a deep breath, she slowly raised her eyes to mine. The board of directors announced we won't get the Carnegie grant. The whole museum has to cut 30% from each department. I fought down the nausea. Well, let's see. My math isn't the greatest, but there are 10 of us in our department, so that would be 3 of us, right? Sharissa held my gaze. Ted volunteered to be one. She said he will take early retirement. Well, I guess that's not terrible news, is it? Who else? My mouth was so dry, I barely spoke above a whisper. Leo was the second one. You know Leo. He just got mad and walked out, Sharissa said. The strong scent of onions was everywhere. The air in the kitchen felt heavy. I put my elbows on the table and closed my eyes. Sharissa sat down across from me. The rest of us demanded to know who the third person would be, she said, but that awful woman from HR wouldn't tell us. She said she had to speak to the employee first, but she did say the museum would be following policy. I pushed the heels of my palms against my closed eyeballs. And do you know what that policy is, Charisse? She said it would be the most recent hire. Oh, Maggie, I'm so sorry, she said, but I cut her off. God Damn it! I began to sob. She rushed over to me and knelt by my chair. Maggie, please, you know how tight funding can be. You'll find something soon, I promise. That struck me as violently funny. I began to laugh even as I continued to cry. Sharissa thought I was upset about losing my job. I could have cared less about the stupid job. It was the health insurance I cared about. How in the world could I even check into the hospital with no insurance? I'll write you a reference letter, she said. I promise I will help you get another job in any way that I can. It felt exactly like falling into a well. Sharissa's voice sounded very far away as I had gone completely numb. Go home. I said it so softly I couldn't hear. She couldn't hear me at first and had to lean in. Just go home, Sharissa. It will all be okay, but I want to be alone for a while. She protested, of course, but I would not be swayed. Finally, she put on her coat, making me promise I would call her first thing in the morning. Once she was gone, I pulled out my phone and called Olivette. She answered on the first ring. Maggie, how good to hear from you. You must have known I've gotten a new stack of vintage from an auction last weekend. Oh, you will love them. All sorts of mysteries and the end papers that to die for. No, that's not why I called, Olivette. I just wanted to know if you had time for a drink. I could bring some wine or something. God, yes, that sounds wonderful. But we'll drink my wine. God only knows what you would pick out. I smiled at her little jab. Olivette was like that. No filters and such. I changed out of my work clothes to jeans and a sweatshirt before I made my way down the few blocks to her shop. It was just getting dark when I got there. She met me at the door. Maggie, darling. She embraced me and I was drenched in her Chanel No. 5. Come in. She dragged me by the hand toward the back of the shop. Wait. Yes. Towards the back of her shop. The name of the shop was Olivette's Library. It was a very high-end bookstore with real oriental rugs on polished hardwood floors and track lighting over the bookcases. Olivette usually only dealt with book or antique dealers, but one day I had wandered in and, well, for some reason she took a liking to me and showed me shelves in the back which held all kinds of vintage books. Olivette never had prices listed, but somehow every book I ever wanted was in my price range. My God, you look like hell, honey. I'm so flattered you dressed up for me. Olivette was always dressed to the nines. She always wore high heels, tastefully expensive jewelry, and her dyed blonde hair was always perfect. I didn't know how old she was, maybe in her late 60s or early 70s, but I knew it would be thrown out on my ear if I asked. How about that wine now? I said, unless you need to stay open for a while. That's the beauty of owning your own business, darling. I can close any time I want, and I want to close now. She locked the door and turned off some lights, straightening a few books on the glass countertops as she passed. I followed her into the back room. It was a small room, painted in teal with an old-fashioned sink and a 1950s Frigidaire painted the same color as the walls. I sat down at a butcher block table while she rooted around the room. I can tell from your face we aren't celebrating anything, so we'll have white wine to lift our spirits. Red can be such a moody wine. Olivette poured me a healthy amount, then doubled it for herself, but she didn't drink it first. She twirled it around in her glass and looked at me. I couldn't take it anymore, trying to be brave. I started to cry again and talk, and I drank as much of the wine as I was spitting out the words. I told her about the tumor, my job loss, the strange relationship with my mother, everything. I got myself into such a state of hysterics. I didn't notice she had moved behind me until she wrapped both of her arms around me and we began to sway back and forth as if she was rocking a child. Shh, she murmured. Maggie, calm down and let's talk about this. It will all be fine. Fine? I wrenched myself out of her grasp. How will it all be fine, Olivette? Tell me how. She took a sip of wine and sat down next to me. First, the job. That's the easiest, she said. Jobs come and go, and you won't even want one now anyway. You have to put your health first. And if you need money, darling, I have plenty, so don't worry about that. I downed the last of my wine. I didn't come here begging for a loan. She reached out and took my hand in hers. Darling, I know that. Don't get all offended. I was just telling you that's a worry you can put aside for now. Now on to the tumor. I'm sure Dr. Sheridan was talking about Gerald Rose. He's the best oncologist in the city. Sure, you might have a rough go for it for a while, but you'll be getting the best of care. Besides, what options do you have? Are you just not going to go in for treatment? All right, that's the last section I've written so far. So tell me what you think. I want to know, am I overdoing it? With Maggie having such a bad day, the tumor diagnosis, the argument with her mother, and the job loss? Or is it okay because now she's with Olivette at Olivette's library in her comfortable place? I don't know why my lights are flickering. It must be the ghost again. Anyway, leave me your comments and I will check you later.